We're going to start recording. There we go. And welcome again to this Lunch and Learn, empowering low vision students with study skills. Our agenda today is going to be pretty simple agenda, and we only have half an hour. And in half an hour, it's a short time. So only 4 bullet points on our agenda: introductions and goals. Second point will be why teach study skills. And the third point, study skills in Prodigi. How can you use your Connect 12 or your Mad Connect to do study skills? And then you have a Q&A at the end, but feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function in Zoom to post any questions you might have during the webinar. And Roger Steinberg is with me right now. He's going to be looking at that, at those 2 windows. And if there's ever any questions, I can answer them right away. And I'm assisted also with Mary Anne Steinberg, which is a learning specialist from University of North Carolina. And good afternoon, Mary Anne. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself a bit.
Well, thank you. It's very nice to be here. I am going to apologize if I have to mute because behind me, you can see there's these weird windows, is basketball practice is going on at UNC Charlotte. And sometimes they crank the music and they hoot and they holler, and it's really loud in here. So if I have to go on mute, please excuse me. I'm not really sure you want to hear practice. But as Eric said, my name is Dr. Mary Anne Steinberg. I'm currently a learning specialist at UNC Charlotte. And what a learning specialist is I work one-on-one with student athletes at UNC Charlotte who have education impacting disabilities, and I help them learn how to be successful college students. But prior to this, I have been an elementary school teacher, I've been a middle school, high school, been a college professor, and I've worked for the Florida Department of Education. So I've sort of spanned education as far as I know it can go. And I'm very happy to be here today and share with you a little bit of research about study skills. So I'll turn it back over to Eric.
Thank you very much, Mary Anne. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric Beauchamp. I'm Director of Product Management here. And I've been with the company with HumanWare for 12 years now. I'm an engineer, software engineer I'm a software engineer by trade and moved into product management because I just love helping our users and get efficient in their studies or their professional work whatsoever in their life. Moving on. So we only have 2 goals today. So understand the benefits of teaching study skills. And the second goal is to learn how Prodigi delivers study skills. So again, how to use your Connect 12 or your Mad Connect to deliver study skills. So I think everybody answered the poll. So please, Roger, can you maybe stop the poll and give us the results?
Sure thing, Eric. So in terms of the first question, do you own or use a Connect 12 or Mac Connect? We have 4 of 8, 50% said yes, 25% no, and 25% support the use of the Connect 12 or the Mac Connect. Second question, how comfortable are you with Connect's Prodigi software? Basically, we have about 76% that are intermediate or below. So 25% never used, 13% are beginner, 38% intermediate. Nobody claims to be a master, but 25%, 2 of 8 said advanced. And one of those was me because I answered the poll as well. So, all right. So that's how the poll came out. Thanks, everyone. We'll end it now.
Thank you very much, Roger. And this is going to give me a clue a bit. And so since there's a lot of intermediate, I'm pretty sure you have hands-on experience with the Connect 12 and the Mad Connect. So I'll show you a couple of tricks here and there while we're doing the demos. So without further notice, I'm going to pass it on to Mary Anne.
So I was asked to talk with you briefly this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, about why we should teach students study skills. And the research that you see on the screen comes from the IRIS Center, which is out of Vanderbilt University. And if you're not familiar with them, Roger is going to provide the link to you in multiple formats, and they have some amazing resources. But the research that I found really talked about why study skills can be difficult for students who have some learning problems. And the first bullet point says that they don't generally approach academic tasks in a planful or strategic manner. So what this means is if they're not approaching learning tasks in a planful or strategic manner, means they may have a hard time understanding how long an academic task is actually going to take them to complete, and then they don't know how to plan accordingly for it. They sometimes don't understand the benefits of taking these larger assignments and break out there you go, oh, time, water break in the background. How to take these longer assignments and break them into smaller pieces or chunks. The second bullet point says that students who have learning difficulties often lack knowledge of appropriate strategies. Students may never have been taught how to study, especially in this post-COVID world. We have students who lost up to 2 years of education. And depending on where they are in their education, they may have missed some key skills. So when we think about being taught how to study, I want you to take a moment and think about your time in college, especially if you were a freshman. Did your college textbooks end up looking like coloring books by the end of the semester because you could highlight in them for the first time, you could write in them, but you didn't exactly know what to highlight? You just knew that you were supposed to do something with what you read. And so you're like, I bought these highlighters, I've got all these great colors, I'm going to highlight. But as you read, you highlighted everything because nobody taught you how to effectively highlight your textbooks. Or students may not understand that there are certain study skills that we use for certain content areas. For example, we may want to explicitly teach students to use cause and effect graphic organizers when they're in history class, because history is a series of cause and effect events and relationships. Or maybe they've not been taught how to outline when they're writing a paper. So we'll talk a little bit more about effective ways to do that on the next slide. But then the last bullet point talks about that they may use strategies, but they may use inappropriate or ineffective strategies. And I like to think about this one as our students, when they're reading, are they active or are they passive learners? And when I say that they are passive learners, it means, are they just kind of moving their eyes across the page versus actually doing something when they read? Are they not annotating text or taking notes on what they read? Or are they not creating their own study guides to help them remember everything that they've read? And students who don't have study skills may have poor performance on academic tasks, or not even complete them on time because they don't know what to do. So those are some of the reasons that we should teach study skills. So Eric, next slide, please. So when we talk about coming up with effective study skills instruction, what components should this instruction include? Well, we're going to start off with explicit instruction. And when we talk about explicit instruction, this is when we are teaching the specific steps of a strategy while also discussing the how, the when, the where, and the why of the strategy. The next step has to do with modeling, and I know many of you are probably familiar with the I do, we do, you do phraseology, but it really does help us come up with a model and an example for how we should teach study skills. When we're in the I do phase, that's when we as educators demonstrate the strategy while we think aloud about the strategy, and we talk about when to use it, where to use it, and with what content areas, and why to use one strategy versus another one. When we're talking about we do, this is the guided practice phase where we provide ample opportunities for students to practice the strategy while offering guidance and corrective feedback. And then in the you do phase, this is the independent practice stage where we allow students to use the strategy independently, but we continue to monitor their performance and offer corrective feedback. Then we want to move students past explicit instruction, past the modeling, I do, we do, you do, and get them into the self-regulation strategies. Self-regulation strategies encourage students to become more self-directed in their usage of study skills or strategies by self-monitoring their progress and by setting their own goals versus goals that you set for them. And then finally, we're always looking for maintenance and generalization. And this is when we as educators incorporate activities that encourage our students to continue to use the study skills or the strategies that we have taught them and to use those skills in other classes or settings. So I'm now going to hand it over to Eric, who will show you how Prodigi can support the delivery of study skills.
Thank you very much, Mary Anne. This is awesome material right there. There's a lot of features on the Connect 12 or the Mac Connect that we offer, and it's up to the teacher, I guess, to determine which feature is more useful to the student. But I'll show you a couple that we can use with the Connect 12 or the Mac Connect. I'm just going to switch the slides here. So the Prodigi software study skill tools. So what kind of features? Access to learning material via OCR. OCR is optical character recognition, and TTS, which is the speech, which it's reading out loud what is the OCR results, or e-content download. So you can download any virtual content on the Connect 12 or the Mac Connect using the Prodigi software. Content display options. So there's different color schemes, color contrast, the size of the font. That's very important, adapting to the student's eye condition so that the student doesn't get tired. Because if they get tired of reading or doing some work, then what happens? They get lazy and they don't want to do the work anymore. So it's a very important step to really adapt the preferences on the device to the student's needs. Document markup, like Mary Anne mentioned, taking notes, highlighting, kind of like a coloring book you end up with. But all these tools are already in the Connect 12 on the Prodigi software. So you have access to pens, highlighters. You can even take notes on the book itself or on the page itself, or even on a white page if you'd like to, and have a student do a summary of what they've read on that note. Multiple language dictionary powered by Oxford Languages. This is a very important tool because when you're reading, sometimes you don't understand the word that you just read. So we offer a tool to access the meaning of those words that you don't understand, so that you can learn and maybe use it in some other document or some other writings that you're going to be doing. Study guides for notes, vocabulary. So this is where the study guides are very important to be learning your vocabularies and coming back to your notes, referring back to your notes, and reviewing what you've learned. Accessible calculators. So in math, very important. There's not a lot of accessible calculators out there, but we do offer an accessible calculator with the color scheme again, the font size. We offer different models of the calculator, which is we start off with a standard, your very basic calculator for the younger students. But moving forward in school, there is a scientific calculator and even a graphing calculator, which we use the Desmos API. So let's do a live demo. This is where I shine. I just love showing these features live for you guys, and maybe you'll be lucky and I'll end up doing something not correct and I have to correct myself, or the device won't work, but that's part of the game using technology. So let me just switch to my other camera. And I'll do a little introduction of what the Connect 12 or the Mac Connect is. So basically, just gonna zoom out a bit. So basically, the Connect 12 is an Android-based tablet on a stand. So I have my tablet right now connected to my stand, which offers some speakers and some lightings where we can control the lighting. There is also a distance viewing camera, which is a wireless Wi-Fi camera, the Kodak camera. So to see at distance what the teacher is teaching on the board. So when I boot up my device, there's a couple of applications that you can see right off the bat. in Prodigi. So Prodigi is a HumanWare made software. The first application will be the magnifier. If we scroll to my right, you'll have a gallery option, a settings option. The settings options is where you can set all the color contrasts, the font size, etc. Even a a help application, sorry, that is available. If I scroll to the left from the magnifier, you also have a distance viewing application, a books application. Books application, we use the Easy Reader API, which we have access to several libraries all around the world. And for example, in the US, the Bookshare library is very useful for students. Roger, can you confirm that I just pinned my camera? For that everybody can see it full screen.
Sorry, stop sharing the PowerPoint, Eric.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm going to allow Carmen to talk really quickly. I think she has a question.
Okay.
Hey, Carmen, did you have a question? Okay, we'll have her post it through the chat or the QA function, Carmen, and I'll get it over to Eric and Mary Anne. Go ahead, Eric.
So now my video should be pinned or spotlighted for everyone, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. So I was at the books application, so accessing Bookshare for virtual books is very important. You also have a dictionary app, the calculator app, and you also have tools to access any apps on the device that is installed on the device. Well, let's do a little quick demo of what we described in the slides. So first off, let's listen to the teacher in front of the class. So we'll access my distance camera. The distance camera, like I said, is a wireless camera, so it connects to the Wi-Fi directly. And I'm disconnecting it from the internet and really using the protocol, the Wi-Fi protocol, on the cameras to have access to the image. But what I wanted to show here is really when you're looking at the board, looking at the teacher explaining math right now that I have as an example, I can split screen with the magnifier application where I can have, I don't have the right book, but I don't have math, but I can have at the bottom my example, my math example, and follow along as my teacher is explaining. And then I can switch either to my distance camera directly, or I can go back to my magnifier camera by tapping directly on that bottom part of the screen. So I have here one book. So I'm just going to go back here and I want to show you what I've done and what I'm going to show you today very quickly. So my son had to read a book at school, which is called School. And her teacher, as a study skill, asked all students to put Post-its on each page so that they don't write or don't highlight in the book. On those Post-it, you need to have your notes on the Post-it. You have different color Post-it. So I kind of like simulated the same study skill that the teacher asked. And that's what we're going to do with the Connect 12 right now. So let's go do that. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to take a capture and how to OCR the captured image. So what you want to do is go into my magnifier application. You have your document underneath, and you can just take a capture here. See, I didn't have any focus. You can wait for the focus to come in. There we go. And I can have my document underneath the camera. I can take a picture of that document. And what that is going to do is that the OCR is going to start detecting, or the machine is going to start detecting the OCR, all the characters on the page. And eventually, once it detected the characters, it's going to replace the characters by computer fonts. I call them computer fonts, but our marketing team calls them diamond edge, because a diamond's edge is very sharp. So you can zoom in as big as you want without loss of any quality at all. I can save that image into my gallery. I can use my pen to write something on my document. So I'm just gonna, let's say, underline this word here, complete. So I want to maybe come back to that word. If I can write notes to that, but also I can highlight the word. So I have a highlighting tool that I can just highlight the word. And once I come back, I'll see my highlighted word here, and I can come back to it. These are kind of tools that we can use to highlight, take notes on the page that I've just scanned. I can even make the computer, the tablet, or the Connect 12 read it out loud for me. So I just press and hold on any word, and it's going to start reading for me. Now remember, we have color contrast. Right now I have black on white, but you can use different other color contrast to your document. Well, let's say, you know, the post-it that I just showed you, I want to put post-its on my page. So let's go try and download the book from Bookshare. So what I want to do, I'm going to go back to my main carousel here and go to my books application. I have already downloaded my book. So I'm going to go into my book. I have my book schooled. Go into my book schooled. And let's say on my real book here, I've placed a post-it on my chapter 5. So I'm just going to navigate. So the last button on the right-hand side of the button banner in the books application is the tables of contents. So you can go and navigate through your book. So tables of contents, I'm going to go and take a look at my chapter 5 here. And let's say I want to put a post-it here, or a bookmark. I can do that with the button on the top right corner of the screen. I can add a bookmark, and I will call it the chapter name here. And then I'm just going to save that, and I can refer back to that bookmark into my book. But what's really nice about this e-content is that I can write notes on this page. I can highlight this page as my teacher instructed me, and I can highlight some passage in my book. I can use different colors of highlighter. Let's say I can use magenta here. So different colors for different kind of information on my book. And I can also write using either my finger or even a little stylus, some notes on my page. So I'm just going to say note here. And these are tools that can be used by teachers and by students to be able to memorize or to learn the material that is that needs to be learned. Let's say I have a word that I'd like to search. So let's see here. I want to search crowd. Stop reading here. And there's a way in Prodigy to have a gesture, a two-finger swipe, and it's going to switch through different applications. So right now I just switched to my dictionary application, and I can be in my dictionary application. I search here nerdy, but let's search for crowd. And it's going to give me a couple of possibilities of the word crowd. So you have crowded, but let's just take the word crowd that I've searched. So it's going to tell you what it is, the definition of the word, an example, how it's used, and in different ways, how to use the word crowd. And I think there's also, synonyms at the bottom. So this is a very useful tool to understand the word that you're reading and come back and refer to it. You can even save it if you want, so to come back to it very quickly. I think I have time to show you a bit of a math example, just very quickly. So here in my gallery, I have placed a folder called math. So in my math folder, I have a math assignment. So here, my math assignment, I've scanned the document, just like what we did at my first step. I scanned the document, and I don't want to have the diamond edge here, so I'm just going to swipe on the right-hand side. I'm going to zoom into my document, and here the question is graph x equals sine y, and I can do that very easily by tapping the settings option at the top of the screen, appending a page, and new function graph. And what I'll do here, I'm going to write my equation. X is equal to sine y, close brackets, and graph. and it's going to graph my function here, and I want to save it to my document. So I'm just going to press the second button from the left, and it saved where my question was. So here, what's very interesting is that I can be sending that out by email. I can maybe share it through Classroom if I want to my teacher to have it corrected. I can even go into my graph and say, this equation, actually in my graph, I'm showing X. I can write actually the equation on my graph, sine Y. So my teacher knows that I understand that this graph is X is equal to sine Y. A very powerful tool, the graphing calculator. And I just want to finish because I think we're running out of time here, and I want to have some time for questions and Q&As. I want to show you a little handy trick. I told you that I was going to show you a couple of tricks here, but I'm going to show you one very quickly. As you can see here at the bottom of my screen, there's a minus, a plus, and a dot. These are stickers that I've placed on my Connect 12 so that I can identify the volume down, the volume up, and the power button where they are. And also I have a little square on the right hand side that tells me where my USB connector is, so I can easily connect my USB connector and be able to charge it. But also what I've done, remember the first task that we had to do is to scan a full page of document. What I've done is that I've used a little corner. I placed a little corner on my base. Let me just show you this, a little corner. So I know exactly where to place the corner of my page to have a full page. And this, you can feel it. You can feel the little stickers. And all these little stickers, these very handy stickers, came from the Microsoft Surface Adaptive Kit, which we distribute here at HumanWare, which you can put this on ordinary laptops. You can use it on the Connect 12 or Mac Connect, and it really identifies the buttons, the ports. You can even have, there's a little handle, sticker handle that can help open a laptop or even your Mac Connect or Connect 12. So a little trick here, very useful trick for students and teachers using the Mac Connect and the Connect 12. All right, so Roger, do we have a couple of questions?
So no questions as yet, Eric. I did launch the closing poll because we're down to about 2 minutes here. So the question is very simple. Was this webinar valuable to you? Hopefully folks found it valuable. Really interesting content, Eric. Quick question. So I can see where I could use the calculator to create a study guide of sort of key functions that I need to have memorized for mathematics. What if with the dictionary, could I create a vocabulary study guide from that dictionary tool to have the ability to copy and paste or anything?
Yeah, you have the ability of copying and pasting a word inside the dictionary, and yes, you could do that.
Cool.
I maybe you can elaborate more as a product manager, Roger.
Well, we do have videos that cover that functionality. I just wanted to highlight that we could create vocabulary study guides as well, so that folks, students or persons that are using the device could learn key vocabulary terms that they will need in terms of studying as well. But I don't see any questions that have come in. The poll is up. We've got, looks like 7 have answered so far. So please finish out that poll. It'll let us know what we're doing here. But I'll let you two close it out, Eric.
Well, thank you. You can go, Mary Anne. You can your conclusion of this nice lunch and learn.
Well, again, just explicitly teaching students how to use study skills and incorporating in that explicit instruction how they can use the Prodigy software and the Connect 12 to accomplish their academic goals is a wonderful combination. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary Anne, for attending and for assisting at this webinar. It was I think it was very useful information to help students and teachers do better in school. And for myself, thank you very much for attending the webinar. I just love giving or showing the Connect 12 and the Mac Connect to all the people or all the students that will be using it in the future. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact myself or Roger Steinberg at HumanWare, or even calling customer support, and we'll help you out with your product with Prodigi software. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.